Welcome back. We are studying consumption trends today. Demand for FMCG or personal consumption goods recovered in the first half of 2022, year ago, but saw a fall in the festival quarter, that is October to December 2022, probably due to inflation. How far has Q4, or rather the first 100 days of 2023, seen by way of consumption recovery? I have with me Mayank Shah, the Senior Category Head at Parle Products, Akshay, Chief of Growth and Insights at Bizom, that's a market research company, and Ramakrishnan, the Managing Director, South Asia Worldpanel Division at Kantar, another market research company. Gentlemen, thank you very much for your time. Mayank, let me start with you, since I guess you know where the shoe bites. Has Q4 been a major improvement over Q3, over Q4 of last year? Any numbers you can share?
Yeah, so we have been seeing a steady recovery since last almost 1.5 quarter, 2 quarters, post softening of demand, last year, especially during second and third quarter, or rather third and fourth quarter. Multiple reasons behind that, but yeah, broadly, if I have to say, there is a recovery due to multiple reasons in the rural demand that's happening, which is aiding the overall demand. Urban demand was strong during, probably last entire year. It continues to be strong, but rural recovery is something that's aiding to the further, growth, which you started seeing almost since last 1.5 quarter, as I shared.
So, Mayank, what you're saying is you saw a bit of a slowdown in the second half of calendar 22, but that is kind of getting erased now, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Would you put some number into how much better this is over Q4 of last year?
Yeah, so in terms of
volume,
growth or demand, we had seen, in fact, about meager, very low single-digit growth. We being in food sector, we were not really, we never saw decline as such, but it was a very, very low single-digit growth, almost about 1 or 2% in rural India in the second half of last year. Compared to that, if we talk about today, we're seeing at least about 5 to 6% demand growth in rural India. The urban India, is, as far as urban India is concerned, we are seeing strong growth coming in from there, which is growing at least at about 7 to 8%. It continues to grow like that since last year.
Okay, you're talking volumes, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Now let me come to you, Akshay. What have been the major trends you are gleaning for Q4?
Sure. Thanks for having me, Lata. So one of the things that we're seeing is, strong double-digit growth in Q4. Now, this is a strong change from Q3, which is the festive period, where after the festive period, we saw tapering of demand to a heavy extent. What we also saw in the festive period is a lot of products that actually got stocked in shelves did not fly as quickly as they were expected to fly. As a result, Q3 got impacted. Now, in Q4, about 5 out of the 6 categories we track showed positive growth, with one being flattish, which is personal care. But everything else kind of showed positive growth. Now, importantly, one of the key levers in Q4, typically while it starts, is the start of the season of summer. And beverages typically has a spike at this point, right? So now if you look at data for, this year, while beverages have grown in low single digits, I think what is important to note is it's up on a very, very strong base from last year, which is the hottest summer in 100 years happened last year, which is in March. And I think on that base, if it is growing, I think it's a very, very positive sign. But other than that, one of the key drivers that we see in rural, essentially, which has led this growth, almost 16.8 versus 7.9 in urban, is 2 things. One is stocking has happened, right? Summer product stocking has happened. For some products, because it is the end of the financial year, we also saw a lot of secondary schemes driving placement. But I think overall, it's been a very, very positive sign, because we also seen one very, very key factor, which is direct distribution. We're seeing the Kirana base of rural having grown up by almost 9.9%, almost double digits, which is a great sign, because it just shows that the health of distribution is very, very strong and Kirana driven. And that continues to be the case in Q4 too.
Okay, got that. I'll just come with more nuanced questions in a minute. Let me get Mr. Ramakrishnan in. Mr. Ramakrishnan, I read your report for all of 2022. I think your report ends with January 23, and that was very sobering. It said that we have not at all gone back to the pre-COVID March, that recovery is a crawl.
Yes. Thanks, Lata. So that report, like you rightly said, was till January, and we've even updated it to February right now. And my views, or the views of Kantar on the basis of consumption, which is completely from a consumer lens, are more or less in line with what Mayank spoke earlier, which is that the recovery is definitely there in urban. Urban was in very low base in the first half of 22, which kind of bounced back in the second half. Rural was very good in the first half on account of the fact that the harvest was bumper, wheat exports were good and all of those things. But in the second half, the winter harvest has not been so great. The winter consumption, including festive consumption, has been poor in rural. So rural is kind of crawling its way back, I would say, but not necessarily out of the woods yet. But urban is showing strong signs of recovery.
Okay. Oh, all right. That's good to hear. Mayank, we had some kind of disturbing weather news, the big heat wave in Feb and the unseasonal rains in March. So everybody, I mean, all the FMCG investors are trying to guess whether that spoiled crops or consumption fervor. What's your assessment after the heat wave and the unseasonal rains, rural demand?
Okay. Yeah. So if we are to believe agricultural, ministry, they still maintain that we'll have a bumper crop of almost about 112 million tons of wheat this year. It's primarily backed by, so there would be some disruptions, but net, I mean, it was expected more than 112, almost about 115, but they have said because of this, disturbed weather patterns that we've seen in last almost about 15 days to 1 month. Heat waves prior to that, and in last about 15 days, 1 month, unseasonal rains and stuff like that. We might see, some disruption in the harvest or the quantum of wheat that we would get, but they still maintain out 112 million tons of wheat.
What they maintain, Mayank, what they maintain, I think you know better than them because you're actually selling to that.
I'm coming there, and I'm giving you a range. The US, agricultural data, USAID have projected it at about 107 million tons, and our own roller mills, roller floor mills association are projecting it at about 102, 103 million tons. That's the range we are talking about, 102 to 112 million tons. In any case, the reason why I gave you this little bit of background is, in any case, even if we are talking about 102 million tons, we are still, very safe as far as our food security is concerned. It's a little less than 104 million tons last year that we had.
Mayank, it's not food security I'm interested. I'm investing. Your viewership is wanting to know whether people are buying. So,
people
translates.
Are buying.
So what is the 100 days of 2023 are behind us? In the last 30 days or last 40 days, has the demand shown any slackening? How much better is it than, say, last year, same time?
No, so that's what I'm saying. In fact, if we talk about the rural consumption, it's only going up. Let's understand two things. One is, good crop, and more importantly, even the MSP has gone up. In fact, today, if you look at the wheat prices, it's much higher than that of MSP. It's being traded at much higher than that of MSP. Government has been very buoyant. They have told that they would be procuring almost about 35 million tons of wheat from the open market. Given all those things, given the strong signals, farmers are anticipating very good, prices for their crop. And that has created a very positive sentiment. If we talk about rural demand, that's one of the major factors driving rural demand. So in fact, if we are talking about demand, it has a very, very positive impact on demand.
Oh, excellent. In fact, for the first time, I think farmers could be even selling to trade rather than to the procurement agencies because market prices are higher in several crops. So that is positive. The only caveat I will take is Parle is a different kind of product. It's so resilient that I guess demand would be there anyway. We don't know how much we can extrapolate to others. And so that question to you, Akshay. Have you seen any late reports of slackening or otherwise from rural India?
I'll give you a quick sense of how March went, March 2023, year on year. Okay, so So overall growth for March specifically was just about 3.6%. But I think what is important is we've seen 4 categories grow out of the 6 categories that we say tracking. They grew well. Beverages was flat, and personal care was the only one under stress even in March. But if you look at the commodity, the branded commodity or the packaged food, or even home care, they grew by a healthy double digit even in March. So I think that is very, very clear that what the February heat did is it accelerated summer product sales.
Consumption.
Now, one question that remains is why is personal care getting a little hit temporarily? Is I think because finally the Kirana store owner is now stocking a lot of summer products. And I think some of these other products like beverages actually have a head start. And I think when we ended the financial year, we did see a lot of placement offers. So they actually bought more than they needed in March just because they had strong placement offers for them from companies. But overall, still in positive territory in March. That's a good sign. And I think that demand has been coming even more stronger from rural in March too. So I think from a rural consumption standpoint, it is positive.
Okay, so those tracking FMCG goods should be happy with both your and Mayank's response. Now, Mr. Ramakrishnan, you all have done a very interesting study on impact of inflation. I believe you studied 6,000 households in June and in November. What were the takeaways in terms of impact of inflation?
Yeah, so in both these things, what is happening is actually what is getting affected is discretionary spends, right? Staples have remained more or less stable across both these zones. But consumers, more and more consumers believing that the impact of inflation or inflation itself is lower in the second wave of the study, which was in November than compared to June. So to that extent, there is a belief that price increase is possibly softening, which is causing people to slightly increase their consumption to some extent. And that is definitely reflecting strongly in urban because urban growth is significantly over population growth, which means consumption is growing quite well. However, rural, the overall belief is that if you take the total basket of spends, share of wallet, etc., spends, even if available, like for example, wheat is available for free in most of the state governments even today, even in the strong rural markets. The free availability of wheat means that atta is not getting purchased. If atta is not getting purchased, the FMCG basket shrinks. So if you leave atta and see, the money that is available that could have otherwise been used for buying atta is available for other things. Is this other things getting fueled back into FMCG is a big question. It gets fueled into things like maybe gold, maybe land and things like that. But definitely the discretionary ones are in a bit of a bother. If you take beverages, like very clearly, the last 2 years saw significant growth for beverages because the previous year was a COVID year. Summer got affected. But that growth is softening a bit, but still fairly healthy growth is there. So that is what I would say that overall, if you look at there is a belief that the inflation is softening and so therefore a willingness to spend a little more. However, there is a word of caution and urban is booming strongly, rural is inching slowly.
Okay. Discretionaries, your report was a bit of a question mark on that. Mayank, is there a premiumization trend? Are your premium products doing better than mass?
So urban growth primarily is driven by premium products. What we have seen is in urban India, growth is primarily led by premiumization, while rural, recovery is more with the basic products. But in urban, we are seeing a very good traction of premium products. So it's more.
Okay.
Sorry.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to ask if Akshay also is noticing any preference. Is premiumization better than mass or the other way around?
Yeah, so I think what I did is, we actually saw across categories where the pack sizes are moving towards a higher value and maybe more premium pack sizes. I'm seeing 4 out of the 6 categories that we're tracking where it is growing. Importantly, beverages at the top end, right, which is the home packs. You're seeing a little bit more premiumization there. You're seeing a lot of premiumization in personal care. Moving more percentage of sales is happening in the high and the medium size packs. You're seeing a slight movement in the packaged food at the moment. This is just, remember, this is all Q4 data coming out of the inflationary background. And even in dairy, we see a slight shift towards value-added dairy products. So I think that's the part to profitability for a lot of people. And I think high-value packs there and premium packs are improving there. So barring these 4 categories, the others remain more or less status quo. I think movement between categories is more or less moderate over there.
Got that. Gentlemen, thank you very much for giving us so much color and nuance on the consumption basket. It looks like the unseasonal rains and the heat wave has not had much of an impact. If anything, higher procurement prices and higher trader prices, MSPs, higher than MSP trading price, has had some bit of a positive impact on rural India. But there are still a little bit of question marks on some products, premium products doing better than mass products. We wrap up on Bazaar on that note. Chartbusters up.